Welcome to Actual Scale Modelling. This is part 7 of Trumpeter's German 2cm self-propelled gun. In this part I'm going to be finishing off the tracks and moving on to the cab. So let's jump into this and see how well I get on. Okay, I'm jumping straight in where I left part 6 off. So as you can see there, I'm carrying on just shoring up the sides, making sure everything stays into place. And while that's drying, I'm going to go back to the tracks, and I'm starting to extend the tracks in more now, so closing up, well, linking together all the little sets that I made up. And this is simply done by the same method as when I made them up, putting the links together, then putting the bracket cap, or the part that grips the wheel, bridging it, and this closes up the actual link. I should point out though, at this stage, I should have left off some, then putting them all together on one unit. The reason for that is it will split apart when I'm trying to bend them around the wheels, but you'll see that as I put them on. So initially, while they're all linked together, not 100% dry, that's why they're bending like that, but that's what I wanted to wrap them around. I placed them on the wheels. Now, a lot of people don't do this, and I've seen people do this. I'm a fan of cementing these into position before moving on to the next part. The reason for that is if they do break apart, there's not so much of a hassle at getting everything back into position. It just means the wheels wouldn't be free moving, but as this is a static model anyway, it doesn't matter if the links are actually cemented onto the wheels. But it's dealer's choice. It's whatever you prefer to do, really. And that actually goes back to what I was saying in the previous videos. You can theoretically build these link for link on the wheels themselves as you go around. You don't really have to build the whole track structure before placing it on. It all depends if you want it free moving. So I'll just turn it over and place it on the bottom and just let that dry until I move on to the next stage. Now the idea is to bend these tracks around the drive wheel like here, but as you can see, the part actually came off. It just wasn't flexible enough to go around this tight angle. So when it came off, I just sort of nudged it in position around my finger as such, to get a sort of curvature as the same as the drive wheel. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better than ending up with a scenario where the track looks square. It will end up having right angles instead of curving around the drive wheel, which doesn't look very good. But because I am cementing these to the wheels, they will adhere to the desired curvature a lot easier than having them free moving. But the free moving tracks are better if they're just the rubber tracks and not these plastic ones. These plastic ones are not very pliable. As you can see there, I'm trying to push it around, and this one is almost at breaking point. As I'm putting it down, one track link just pop out, so that is going to have to be repaired also. But mainly it did stay intact. So I'm just placing on the glue onto the wheel. Now I use a combination of super glue and normal cement, but the super glue is only there just so I can have an instant purchase on it, and I can move on to the next part to secure it. The super glue itself will not be the actual main bonding agent. So there you can see the track has now snapped off, and you can see it squaring up there, and that's the effect that you really don't want, for it to be going at right angles. So I'm taking them off bit by bit, and I shall be just laying each one on individually. Obviously it takes a lot longer doing it this way, but if I just flip it around there, you can see the track curving around the wheel there, and makes it look a lot better than the right angle look that you would get otherwise. And as I said, it's one of the biggest flaws of having the plastic track instead of the rubber track. But there again, some people don't like the rubber tracks as well. You know, it's again personal preference. So I've now got the two halves laid down, and it's time to close up the actual truck itself. And this is done the same way as building the truck. I'm putting in the last piece before the final two pieces go in to close it. You can't, the instruction said it was 54 links per track. It actually turned out it was 56. So that spare that I had was not a spare at all. It was part of the truck, so the wording was wrong on the instructions. But it didn't really matter because I had the parts there anyway. If I didn't manage to lose a part, then of course that would have been a problem. And once the tracks are closed off, the last thing to place onto them is the remaining supporting bar that bridges both links together. And that again is placed on the same way as when I was building the individual links up as well. I did have a couple pop off as I was going along. Also, I didn't secure them enough, but I didn't lose them, so they were easily replaced. So once everything is dry there, I can concentrate back onto the flatbed, and it's time to assemble the flatbed on to the actual truck itself. Now, the part that you see me putting cement on here, this is the front section that goes over the front wheels, and obviously the flatbed is for the rear. Now, I think it's crucial that you do both at the same time, because there will be quite a lot of manoeuvring going around trying to get everything to line up. So first of all, the front section, and this just goes over the wheels and alongside the actual engine. It's only placed on there at the moment until I get everything in position. And then the flatbed. Now, you can turn this upside down and have a look where the contact points are, or you can just line up where the pulley system is and where the gun's going to sit. If you get that centerized, then it shouldn't be a problem. So while that's drying, I'm going to be moving on to the exhaust system, and I'm using Rebel Aquacolor 99 aluminium for the paintwork on this. I'm not putting any finesse in it, I'm just painting it all the one colour, because you'll hardly get to see this unless you tip the model upside down, of course. The construction is fairly straightforward. I'm just placing on the two halves of the muffler section together, first of all. And then once that's dry, that just gets thread through the framework of the underside. It's a little bit difficult to get it all in. There will be a little bit of manoeuvring to get it in position. And as much of the same with the second section of this one. It goes through the crossbar support beam there. I cemented it onto then the muffler. Now you can do this beforehand, but it's easier to do it in stages in situ than it is joining it all together than trying to fit it in. And once I was happy with the positioning, I'm using Revit Color 83 Rust just to mark up the exhaust system. Now I'm moving on to the cabs part of the build, and first of all, this is the front part, the manifold section, and of course the dashboard area of the car. It's a fairly simple build. Once these supports are on, there's just a simple little box to be placed on. There's not much to say about it, but there's a little bit of work needs to be done on it, and that's just all the different brackets that are going on. Once everything is in place, it's Revit Aquacolor 77 Dust Grey for the colouring of it. Again, I'm not using any finesse. I don't even mind if the paintwork turns out to be a little bit patchy. It didn't, but if it does, it doesn't really matter, because this is a hard working area of the vehicle. So once it was dry, it was time to place it in. And so far, this is the most difficult part to actually place in. It sits just ahead of the engine and just before the mudguards on the track. It's quite difficult to put in. It's got to go in a 90-degree upright, but it wants to sit at a sloping angle. So I would suggest if you're fitting this, have it a bit loose to start with until you build up the rest of the cab. That way you can manoeuvre it in position. It took me quite a while to get it into the upright position. That's because there's hardly any room for it to sit properly. And while that's drying, I'm going to make up the seats of the cab unit. First of all is the back wall piece, and this just sits at right angles to make up a box. These seats are painted in Revit Acrylic 08 matte black, and I'm just putting these on the spray just for ease of handling. I'm then marking up the seats with a series of greys and rust colours. I'm not going to list the colours here because they're so generic. If you decide to do this, any light colour will do. Doesn't have to be grey or white or anything. Any light colour just shows up scuff and marks on the actual cushion itself. And I'm just placing it off on, then wiping away any excess with a piece of kitchen towel. I'm using Revit Acrylic 09 Anthracite here for a couple of boxes that sit at the side of the seat. Not sure what the boxes are for. Initially I thought they were ammos, maybe a radio. I'm not 100% sure. There appears to be little dials or things on them, so I'm painting them in 99 aluminium. Again, just gives it contrast. There's also to be added is a couple of small brackets. There's also a bar that goes on the back of the seat, and this is for the soft top option. I forgot to show you that getting painted, but it's just it's a solid piece unit. There's not any assembly required for it. So anyway, I'm just placing the little bits of brackets and pieces that hold everything together. So I have everything set out now for assembly. The little bar you can see on the piece of towel there, that's the part that I just forgot to show painting it. So first of all, to go on are the two little boxes which are at the side of the seat, and then the seat itself goes on next. Obviously there's a back piece and bottom piece for the cushions. The footwell is next to go on, and that just marries up where the bottom cushion is. And then the back part is the soft top option of the build. See, it's an option, it's there, it doesn't give you the option, but you can have it on if you don't have to have it on. So the fabric part just gets placed onto the back of the bracket before getting placed onto the back of the actual main unit itself. There is a couple of little location points for this to sit on. It shouldn't cause anyone any trouble placing it on. And once everything was dry, it was time to place in the whole unit. I had to lift up the steam column slightly for it to fit into, but it was okay fitting. It wasn't perfect. There's a little bit of jiggling you have to do to get everything lined up, but if you line up the back seat to the flatbed, it should be okay. And this is where all end parts are in. So if you haven't done so already, why don't you subscribe to the channel? If you hit the notification bell, that way you'll be kept up to date not only with this build, but all my future builds as well, of course. Hit that like button. Don't be afraid to leave a comment, and of course you can share the video. But for now, thank you all very much for watching. Bye bye.